We're recording, and I want to welcome you to the July 2018 version of the IIBA Certification Chat. My name is Rich Larson. I am CBAP as well as other certifications, and have been for quite some time. And I really believe in the value and the benefits of certification, and hope you do too. And that's probably why you're here. So we will answer any question you have about certification. Anything from, why should I get it, to how do I apply for it, to which one's right for me, to how do I study, how do I pass, and how do I recertify, anything and everything. The way we do it is to submit questions through the GoToWebinar question panel, which is on your toolbar. And I suggest you find that now and send me in your name, your location in the world, and what's happening in your world, such as here in Minneapolis. We're just getting over a bunch of rain. I had 2 inches overnight, which is kind of a lot for us here, but it's going to clear up and all that. So send me in that, and then any questions you have regarding your certification. There's a slideshow that's playing in the background that you'll get a copy of if you want to download the handout. The GoToWebinar toolbar has that handout section available to you. So check that out. And this is not a formal presentation. Hi, Olga from Germany. How are you doing? So what time is it in your time zone, Olga? But I can show you a slide if you'd like to go through, certification requirements or exam blueprints, or we got a couple of slides on various tips, whether it's applying or studying. And so send me on in your questions and we'll get started. One of the things that I always like to find out is which of the certifications are you interested? The 3 basic ones from IIBA here, there is a new one, and I'm going to open up a poll and ask you which one you are interested in. So I'm going to show that right now. So which of the 3 basic IIBA certifications, and you could also say through the question panel if you're interested in the new AAC as well. And I see one question about that coming in right now. So so we'll get to that in just a second. So I'm launching the poll here, and curious which one you're interested. If I think the poll, I'm going to make a note to update that one, because I think there's just the 3 choices plus not sure. So far 100% of you are weighing in on CBAP, and I see a couple others as well too. So I'm going to make a note of that right now. And I see Olga says you're interested in CCBA, and if you're interested in AAC, you could just send me through something through the chat as well. So I'm going to close that and share the results with everybody. It's kind of weird. I don't know how 100% can be CBAP and then some of the other ones being 10%, but that's what GoToWebinar is saying. I think it's got a calculation error. It said 100% CBAP and then 10% each of the others. I think what that means is maybe there's 1 vote for each of the other ones as well. So, all right, good to know. Most people attending these chats are interested in CBAP, but again, any questions, such as the first one coming in from Jordan: how does the new AAC certification fit into the scope of certifications out there? First, I'll answer from a standpoint of IIBA certifications, but Jordan, if you want me to cover it more broadly, I can do that. AAC, I think, is a good certification for IIBA to be offering, since it is focused on Agile and business analysis, which is a good intersection of disciplines. And given the new Agile extension from IIBA, it is a very logical one for people to get a subspecialty certification. And either instead of or in addition to, and I'm thinking it's going to be a lot of addition to CBAPs or CCBA, it will demonstrate your knowledge and to some extent skills in working in an agile environment and employing your business analysis knowledge, skills, and you name it. So it fits in quite well. It won't be as popular ever as this CBAP, I don't think, because CBAP has a broader population base and perhaps is a more recognized certification. But I think the AAC is going to go there. It's the only one I know of in the Agile space that has the weight of an organization like IIBA behind it. There may be some specialty certifications out there, but certainly in the business analysis world, it has a lot of value. Now, comparing that to, say, CSM or some of the other is it IAC Agile or IC Agile? I'm not familiar with that one nearly as much. It doesn't have the name recognition for sure, and nor will it ever be as popular, say, as getting your CSPO or CSM. But I don't think that matters. I think for the people that understand business analysis, this one is got a bright future. Olga is interested in CCBA, and she's going to take the exam in Germany, but I like to do it in English. Is it possible? I would think so. I think the exam is only available in English, so if that's what you want to focus on, I think you're in good shape. So Olga also asks, which questions are asked in reference endorsement form? I don't understand what you mean by that. Are you talking about, if you're talking about the application, then they will ask you about your general employment background. They're mainly interested in your work experience. They'll also ask you things about your education, and they'll ask for 2 references who can attest to your BA ability. And we always suggest that you get those going first. Submit the references very first thing. It's the critical path and it'll take the longest to get done. The bulk of the time, as I said, is spent on work experience. And what you want to do is go through project by project where you had substantial BA activity, take your most recent projects first and work backwards. And if you work on a lot of small projects, you could combine them into one if there's some related way that you can do that. And you generally can do that in most cases, because IIBA doesn't want to see 59 different projects. And what they want to do is get a sense of the number of hours you've done, plus across the different knowledge areas. So what we have is an application worksheet. I'm going to jump to that. In this handout that you have available, you can click through to get to the application worksheet. And this other list of links also gives you a quick way to go get the spreadsheet for download. And what our spreadsheet does that we give away for free is to allow you to organize those projects before you go to the IIBA online application form. So you've got all your projects in front of you, so you save them, and that way, if something happens on their website, you don't lose all the work that you put in. So we strongly urge you, and a lot of people have taken advantage of that. So on our website, go check that out. IIBA will not call your reference providers. What they will do is send them an email and ask them to basically rate you about your, they'll ask on a scale of 1 to 5, I think it is, and rate your ability to do different kinds of high-level things by knowledge area generally within business analysis. So another question on the application from Olga is, in the work history, what I need to pay attention to? Well, you need to have a high-level description of your project. You don't have to get really detailed with that. The most important things to pay attention to there are which knowledge areas did you do the work in? In other words, did you do some planning? Did you do elicitation? Did you do a requirements analysis, et cetera? And how many hours of business analysis work? So as far as contacts for work experience, they certainly could be the same person who provides references for you. Absolutely. In many cases, they would be. They certainly don't have to be, but they can be the same person. So when you're describing your work experience, another question from Olga. Yes, you use a few words in the field description or objective of the work slash project. So there's not a lot of characters to play with, so be brief and pretty high level. Fabrice from London, Ontario, Canada. Hello. What would be a good replacement for mnemonics for a person that is not good in memorizing mnemonics? I think let's talk briefly about mnemonics. The reason we supply them is that the BABAC can be pretty overwhelming. And as a way to provide you a structure for remembering key parts of it, mnemonics work for some people. If they don't work for you, I think having some vehicle such as using flashcards, whether you make them up yourself or you purchase ours, I'm not trying to push those, but you can certainly write your own, to do some key memorization. In other words, pick out things that you are having trouble remembering and invent some flashcards of your own. And the reason I say that is while we're not pushing memorizing the BABAC, we certainly know that it's overwhelming to try to even do that. It, first of all, builds your confidence. And I think that's very key to passing an exam. Second thing it does is gives you a way to recall some structures and some key points, because the exam is tricky and they'll try to trip you up by asking you things called distractors. In the test preparation business, these distractors give you a very realistic looking answer, and maybe even something based on your experience might sound true, but is not really supported, say, in the BABAC, in the BA body knowledge. And so while that's not a perfect way to test people, it's the only way we have to be able to test you on standards. It's really a universal thing. It's not just IIBA. Every credible organization has to test this way. So that's one structure. A second thing I would do is make sure you really understand the BABAC. Maybe take good notes and maybe come up with some way to review the key points in it. That's one reason why you create a study guide and study tables to help you with that, so that it is a pre-built way. You don't have to start from scratch. The reason I bring it up, even coming up with your own questions or mnemonics, or not mnemonics, I'm sorry, flashcards or study tables, is that is another method for absorbing information. And that's really what we're talking about, is how do you absorb the information and make it your own, so that you recognize these key points from the BA body knowledge when it comes to the exam time. So again, because we provide materials, I have to just be real honest that we love our materials. We work real hard at them. We take pride in them. We get a lot of great feedback. And our online study exams are another way to help you test yourself with how well you're doing. Okay, back to the application from Olga. How to calculate total hours work for professional experience. I would defer that answer to the spreadsheet, because if you fill in the hours in our spreadsheet, Olga, and everyone else, you will be able to calculate them pretty easily. She also asked, in the work history section, there is possible to add only one work project name. If I collected my work experience in different companies, then I would separate them into different sections. So in other words, you can put in as many projects as you can. So for each one, you separate by the company. And if I'm not answering your questions well enough, please shoot me back a follow-up. Olga's also saying which questions IIBA will ask to my reference providers in reference form. Well, what they'll ask is basically, how well does the candidate do in BA planning? How well does a candidate do in eliciting and collaborating? How well does a candidate do in managing requirements? Blah, blah, blah. So it's really of that form. It's more like a survey. Etun, I think is your name. I hope I didn't mispronounce it. I've recently been approved to go ahead and take my CBAP exams. Good for you. Congratulations, you got your exam or your application accepted. I'm looking for tips to ace the exam with minimal study and practice. Wow, that would be good. Let me bring up my research that we've done, and my advice to you is be aware that about the average on our research, when we've polled people who are successful at passing the CBAP, they spend about an average of 100 hours studying. There's some that study far less and some that have studied far more. So bear that in mind, that it's tougher than you think. But if you're looking for tips, our handout here, let me see if I can find the tip. Just a second, I'm going to move things around. I've got a lot of, here we go. In this slide of your handouts, there are a number of tips here that will give you a start. We also have these monthly chats that you could tune into to get more tips and ask more questions. And we have some people that have taken multiple chat sessions in a row until they go on and taken their exam. So I'd encourage you to come back. We also have other products to help you with that, as well as classes. So if you have minimal study in mind practice time, I would also urge you to do several rounds of practice tests. Practice tests were rated the #1 thing that helps CBAP candidates pass their exam. We did, again, that research I mentioned before and found that out. And that really what led back in 2010 for us to develop our online study exam, because we were frankly a little surprised at that. And so we went and developed our own product because of that research. So Angela, hi, is the CBAP exam questions closely related structured to the practice exams? We'd like to think so. What we do in the practice exams, and I assume you mean our online study exam, is the format where you asked a question, you got 4 answers, and usually a couple of good distractors that are close together. If you're talking about CBAP, which you are, there are also scenario questions where it's a longer paragraph and ask, what would you do? And there'll be maybe 2 or 3 questions based on that scenario. Then there are other questions based on a case study, which is like a page or 2 of text or diagrams or both. And you're asked, again, it's maybe 3 or 4 or 5 questions to answer based on that one case study. So we follow the same structure. And we also put together our questions based on the IIBA exam blueprint. So if they say, 10% from this knowledge area, 15% from that, 20% from a third, we follow that and we construct our exam based on a pretty sophisticated data model that we put together. And we've got a very tight structure that mimics the real exam pretty closely. And one more thing I want to say about our study exam. We have more questions in our exam to help you solidify your knowledge. Come back to that earlier question about being able to master the BABAC without memorizing things in mnemonics. The more questions you can answer and absorb information that way using our knowledge-based questions, the better. The real exam will have a minority of questions. I think maybe 20% of the questions are knowledge-based, and our exam has more. And the reason we do that is to help you absorb the BABAC. But we certainly do have scenarios and case studies for sure. Thank you for mentioning that. Someone had said that the poll is blocking it. Thank you, Paul. I apologize for that. And let me go back to the tip slide here. Hopefully you can see that now. My screen is now showing that it's displaying. So check out this slide in your handouts after we're done here. I think slide number 7, and you'll see those tips. Paul's saying, where can I get the spreadsheet for logging and calculating hours? Let me see if I can jump to a couple of places. If you go to Certification Business Analysis CBAP on our website, there is, let's see, get my screen out of the way. I've got GoToWebinar kind of hiding everything here. So let's see, CBAP. Whoops. Ding, ding, ding. I shouldn't have done that. Certification, business analysis, CBAP is what I wanted to do. Okay. All right, you go to our CBAP section, and right near the top, it's divided into different steps to help you earn your CBAP. And right there, your CBAP application worksheet is listed in step 1. We ask you to register to become a member of our learning network. In order to do it, and if you've already done that, you just log in and then you can download it. And it's right there. It's probably the easiest way. Jordan says, do you feel that it's better to progress through the certifications rather than go to the one we feel we may have the requirements met? Well, are you talking about CBAP versus CCBA perhaps? I think if you qualify for CCBA, but are many, say, thousands of hours away from the CBAP, that it's better to get the CCBA. And the reason I say that, there's a lot of value to certification, both from what you learn, what you can use back on the job, because I think the BABAC is a wonderful standard that has great applicability. You've got 50 different techniques that you may not have considered before that you can employ. They're vetted and standardized from around the world. Plus, it demonstrates to your employer that you have a dedication to your profession. Assuming that you are dedicated to it, it's worth the time and the money to apply. And then later on, when you qualify for CBAP, then you can sit for that and obtain that CBAP. Now, if you're close to getting, so maybe, because CBAP has 7,500 hours requirement, if you're in the 5,000 or 6,000 hour and you're maybe 1,500 hours away from it, then maybe wait a couple of years to go for the CBAP. I don't want to discourage you from getting certification because, again, I believe in the value of it. So I'm hoping that's what your question was, Jordan, and please send a follow-up if that's not really what you're asking. Paul is saying, I recently passed the PMI PBA thanks to your awesome study guide. Well, congratulations and thanks, especially the study tables. That's awesome too. Having the PMI PBA cert, is it worth it to also get the CBAP? I love that question from the standpoint of it lets me talk about the values of the different ones. What your handouts don't have a table which is on our website somewhere in one of the blogs, but comparing who should aim for what certification. So comparing CBAP and PMI PBA, if you are a kind of a hybrid BA, in other words, and Paul, maybe you can shoot me in an answer. What is your role? Are you 100% BA, or how much project management do you do as well? And that's what I mean by hybrid. If you do those two roles, the PMI PBA tends to be really what we recommend. If you are you a consultant, or are you a full-time employee? Do you think you might want to become a consultant? If so, having both is good. I've got both as a consultant / trainer, and it's pretty, I think, beneficial if you're in my line of work to have both. And Paul says I do more PM than BA. So given that, my advice, all things being equal, are that you can stay with the PBA. Now, if you work for a company, and we just had a meeting in the office this morning about a certain company that's pretty much requiring their BAs to become CBAP certified, you want to take that into account. So how does your company value the different certifications? And some are more PMI oriented, some are more IIBA oriented. So that's a third factor. So hopefully that answers your question. Paul also says, I manage a team of developers, but also teach college courses in IT on the side. Interesting. We should talk more after the chat. If you teach people that would be going into business analysis, I think for sure that having the PBA is a good thing. Now, whether you need to get a CBAP as well, maybe a fourth factor is how much do you value certifications? There are some people, you've probably seen them on LinkedIn, that have 5 or 6 or 7 or and growing numbers of certifications after their name. If you're one of those people that really values it, then it's something that you should consider. That's the other thing about going back to the IIBA-AAC. I'm going to go for that. I have got to organize my study time in order to sit for that. But the balancing act of how much time and money will it take versus what does it provide for me. I love learning, and for me, that's one of the biggest benefits and virtues of certification is what I can learn from it. Plus, I think we all like having that badge that says we've accomplished something and we've earned this recognition, and that's not a bad thing either. So I think if you teach courses, Paul, and anyone else, I mean, it gives you more credibility in front of your students. And so there you have that. Let's see, Olga says, does the certificate have expired date? Which certificate do you mean, Olga? Do you mean like the CCBA? If that's what you mean, or CBAP, or any of the IIBA certifications, they're for a 3-year period. Although the ECBA, I believe, does not expire. You can't renew it. So the CCBA has a 3-year, as does the CBAP, time frame. So you need to renew that and provide 60 continuing development units to IIBA to show that you're continuing your education. I think call that a 5th value of certification, is that it is a good nudge to keep us learning and keep us participating, because it's not just going to a IIBA or PMI meeting or a conference. That's a big part of it, but you also can earn continuing development units for participating. So like teaching a college course, making a presentation at a chapter meeting. If you do that, you can get CDUs from your professional work that you do as a BA. You can also do from reading books. And there's a whole host of things on the IIBA website for recertification requirements. You do not need to pass a test again. Yay! So once you pass, as long as you keep recertifying, you will not have to re-examine. You pass it, and it's yours as long as you keep recertifying. And I think IIBA has like PMI does, a retirement program, so that once you've retired, you can stop your CDUs. You can keep your CBAP then forever. You may not care at that point, but it's something, I guess. So Jordan is saying, is AAC on the same schedule for re-up? I believe it is. Again, a 3-year period. And interesting enough, you can double dip, so that if you go to let's say a IIBA chapter meeting, and they talk about Agile, let's say talk about user storage or something, you could count those as a CDU for your CBAP as well as your AAC. And you can count it if you got a PBA, Paul, or anybody else, you can count that towards your PBA recertification. I do that all the time. I love to go to sessions where I can double or triple dip if you could, but it's not the sole determinant. But those are nice little benefits, I guess, if you will, that you can keep renewing based on one event or one thing if you do it right. So Tanya is asking, and I'm just out of time for one more question. Tanya says, I've been a BA for 4 years and we're wondering your thoughts about me doing ECBA, then CCBA. I know ECBA is entry level, however, I think it would build for CCBA, but wondering your thoughts. The question, Tanya, how many hours have you built up as a BA? If you've been doing BA work kind of full time for those 4 years, that's one thing. If you don't have enough hours for CCBA, which requires 3,250 hours, no, 3,750, wrong number there. You've been doing full time. You've probably got close to enough hours for the CCBA. I think that would be my advice, assuming you have close to the 3,750 hours needed. And if you've been a full-time BA, that doesn't mean you have 2,000 hours per year, because you have to factor in meeting time, other administrative time, and frankly, on some projects you're not really doing work as a BA, correct? I mean, it's not 100% of your time. So you can look at how many hours you actually put in. Again, I urge you to go check out our spreadsheet, start filling that in based on your estimate. By the way, the last thing I want to say about that is that IIBA doesn't require an exact accounting for your hours. They're not going to demand or audit your timesheets or anything like that. There's no way they could do that. It's an honor system. And you set a code of conduct saying this is truthful and honest, and they take your word for it. And they also will audit a certain number of, I was audited, and they will contact your contacts then if you're audited to basically just ask about the projects you listed. They're not going to ask your contacts, did Tanya work 70 hours on BA planning on this? No, they're not going to get to that level of detail, so that's a good thing. Well, guys, we're at the end of the half hour. I want to thank you for participating. I wish you all the best in going for your certification and fulfilling those dreams. And let's see, one last question before, okay. I hate to leave this one, so I'm going to just really quickly read from Edtun. For the Watermark CBAP certification study exam, there are 3 options. Let's say I purchased a 30-day option. If for any reason I need to extend after 30 or 60, can I just pay the difference? Well, we have a renewal where you can get a discount for renewing. So it's basically not quite the same as paying the difference, but yeah, it's a lower price to renew. So thank you. Thank you, everybody, for attending. I'm going to stop the recording right now, and we always make a copy of the recording available. So if you want to review anything, you can go check that out. Oops, what is happening? Okay, I'm going to stop the as soon as I can. There we go. I got